Hey, Maurice?
Yes.
Okay, just checking my audio.
Hello? Hello?
Good morning. We can hear you.
Hi, good morning.
Your camera's not up there. Wow. I can't tell you. Can you hear me, Joe?
We can hear you.
Okay. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
We can hear you, Mr. Bradley. Waiting on Mr. Denk.
Hey, Maurice, could you resend him the link? I know I had to redo my link a couple of times. I was having issues getting in.
Sure. Let me do that right now.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Joseph Hudson. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Angela, what docket are you here for?
Sorry, was that a request for me?
Angela's here for A 27, 28, and 29.
Thank you. And that was you speaking, right, John Morello? You're here for the same dockets as well, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I have a Charles last name. Could you tell me what docket you're here for this morning? Please mute your mics and your policy.
I'm sorry, Carmela, you're breaking up a little bit.
Please mute your mic into your docket. Thank you. Charles, I don't have a last name on my participant list. Could you please tell me what docket you're here for?
My last name is Watson. My docket number is A2120.
Thank you.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Loud and clear.
I'm gonna call Mr. Dink. Hold on.
Yeah, I just emailed him the credentials, so he has it.
Okay, thank you. Give him a few minutes.
These meetings remind me of the walkie-talkies in scout camp.
I just talked to Mr. Dank and he's getting on to the email from Maurice.
Tom, I think we would do better with 2 cans and a string.
I second that.
Sorry. I can't hear Patrick.
Okay, let me know if you're getting it.
Hear you now.
Well, WebEx just released a new feature that should eliminate this problem in the future.
Oh, hold on a minute. He's having trouble, Maurice, in getting the actual start the meeting link from you.
I just sent it.
Hold on, he said he just resent it.
Oh, no, I just sent it this a few minutes ago. He still hasn't got it. I sent it to his Gmail account.
It's to your Gmail account, Joe? Joe? Must be looking because he's going back and forth between his,
Yeah, I can, here, let me, oops. I can send it again.
he's gonna send it again, Joe. All right, hold on, he's sending it again. So Just, you're going to it on your iPad, right? Okay, well, wait, there you go. I heard it ding. Go. Same thing. Okay. Okay, hold on. He said he's not getting an invitation to join.
I just sent it.
And Carmela just texted what,
All right, Carmela's saying, close all your browsers, try it again.
He's using an iPad, correct?
Yeah, that's an iPad you're on, right, Joe? Oh, he just left me. I think it is.
So he's clicking on the link that I'm sending?
Well, usually it has a start meeting, like a little blue thing in there. And I think what I told him to do is that even if it has the writing in there from WebEx for the link, hit on that.
Right. There should be a hyperlink in there that he can click on. If not, it also has the meeting numbers, which you can also enter the meeting numbers to join a meeting.
Yeah, I started to tell him that. Yeah, he's going back and forth between me and his phone.
You know what? Let me, I can invite him from, hold on a second. From the WebEx platform itself, that might help.
Hey, Joe, he's going to invite you from the WebEx platform itself.
Which should have that green, the green button. I just sent it.
Well, wait. All right, hold on, because he's just sending it.
Okay, I got 3 other appellants that just emailed me just trying to get into. So we're just having
Take a look at it.
difficulties.
Carmela, I emailed you the links this morning.
Oh, he's got it now.
Okay.
That did it.
Carmela, this is Jamie. I got in.
Okay, thank you. I'm waiting on one more, Chris Grimes.
Joe's in. Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and re-invite everybody. That way everybody will get a new link.
Okay, I got Katie in. I'm looking for Chris Grimes. He's still trying to get in.
Okay.
There we go.
Hey, look at
The hour.
Nice try, but I got in anyway.
Can't fool you.
I'm on to you. Chris Grimes is joining. Okay, I've got to read the declaration of procedure. Here we go. Better wait on Carmela. She had make sure everybody's in here. Okay. Thank you, Pat. You're doing a good job. I don't know what I'd do without you. Carmela? We didn't lose her.
No, I'm still here. Okay. Look like Chris Grimes is in for docket A2320. We got the participants for A27 through 29. Katie, you're for Tarkenton, correct? I think she's for Tarkenton. Okay, Mr. Dink, we can get started.
Okay, well, now I'll read the preamble. In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio's open meeting law under COVID-19 emergency declaration, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the City Planning Department conducts its meetings Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting had the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raise hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. The Board of Building Standards and Building Appeals meeting is now in session. First docket A 2320-2511 Woodbridge Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, preliminarily, Mr. Chairman, to call the roll, but before you do that, Tricia McGinty asking for the City of Cleveland Law Department, we're going to object to the use of the chat feature as we have for every meeting based upon public records law. And also I'm asking to have independent verification testimony be put into the record that it is currently being live streamed based upon the pandemic open meetings issues. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, but you also need to call the roll.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Maschke,
Here.
Mr. Bradley,
Here.
Mr. Ink,
Here.
Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Mr. Denk, you better check with Maurice to make sure that we are live streamed, and I can clarify that.
I can confirm we're live streamed.
Thank you. Who's present for this hearing?
Application and fees are in order. Notice of violation is interior exterior maintenance issued on January 20, 2020. Appeal statement received January 28, 2020, asking for 1 year to abate the violations. Present for the hearing, Chris Grimes, Tom Vanover, Patricia Ashton.
Solemnly swear or affirm the comments you're about to make are the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Proceed. Mr. Grimes, tell us your plans for the property, please. Mr. Grimes, are you on?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm continuously working forward on this project. I took all the violations into consider, and I corrected the violations that were at whatever violations that were cited. I've been working forward on,
Okay, this is the January 2nd, 2020 violation notice. Is that the violation notice you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay, and do you have an inspector? Have you had any
Yes.
work?
Cooper.
Okay.
Inspector Cooper.
Okay. Mr. Vanover, you have any comments on the procedure on the docket?
So, Mr. Chairman, this is a 6-unit apartment building that is occupied. And these pictures were, as you can see, were taken September 8th. So this is January, from January to September. We've had 9 months already. I think that there's this work that's, you can see, that's ongoing and much more to go. I think we need something considerably shorter than the year. If we had given him a year in January, we're talking about January of 2021 to complete the violation, correcting the violations. So I think that we wouldn't object to holding to that date, but another year for an owner occupied structure, I think, or for not an owner occupied, but for a rental structure, it should have never gotten to this condition to begin with.
Okay, any comments from board members? A motion is ordered to grant the appellant until January 2021 to complete abatement of the violations. Motion so in order.
So moved.
Mr. Chairman,
Maskey,
Second.
second by Mr. Bradley. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Yes. Go ahead, Tom, you have something to say?
yeah, Mr. Chairman, what date in January? January 1st?
Thank you. January 1st, 2021. Thank you.
Thank you.
Proceed.
Mr. Maskey,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Dank,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Okay. Thank you. Next docket. Should we reheat? We'll list these all together. The same owner, is that, for the following dockets. A 2720, 1929, unit number 2 Green Road. Docket 2920, docket 2820, 1939, unit number 1 Green Road, and docket A 2920, 1929, unit number 1 Green Road.
Application fees are in order. Notice of violations are elevator traction issued on January 3rd, 2020. Appeal statement received January 31st, 2020, asking for 30 days to abate the violation. Present for the hearing, Councilman Anthony Harrison, Tom Vanover, Ashton, and could the owners or the associates of the property please announce themselves so you can be sworn in.
Yes,
solemnly swear affirm the. And is Mr. Monroe? I'm solemnly swear.
I am here.
The truth, the whole truth, nothing but the.
Mr. Dank, let's hear their names who are all associated with this first, and then you can swear them all in once we know who everybody is.
I thought we did, yeah. Okay.
So, Mr. Dank, my name is John Monroe. I represent the property owner, Grandview Point Apartments LLC. I'm joined by Sean Puddles, P-U-D-L-E-S. He's on the telephone. I'm joined by Angela Conz, that's K-O-N-C-Z. She's the on-site property manager. And then finally, I'm joined by Dennis McCloskey, that's M-C-C-L-O-S-K-Y.
Okay, is there anyone else giving testimony?
Is that the total number to be sworn in? I'll swear them in also.
Mr. Chairman, we also have the councilman with his hand raised. I believe he may want to give testimony.
Yes, he was introduced. Councilman Harrison, solemnly swear and affirm the comments you're about to make are the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Councilman Harrison, do you wish to speak before or after the presentation?
Maurice.
Yes, sir.
Somebody
Somebody's
has
microphone is
their telephone on and their computer. So that's why we're getting the echo, because they're calling in and they have the sound on their computer. If you could just let them know if they've got if they're calling in on the phone, they need to turn the sound down on their computer.
Correct. Okay, let's try this again.
Ready?
Yeah.
Councilman Hairston, do you wish to present your comments or at the conclusion of the testimony?
At the conclusion of the testimony.
Fine, okay, proceed. we'd like to hear what the violation is and what you're doing about it. The appellant or Mr. Monroe.
Thank you, Mr. Dank. As I mentioned, my name is John Monroe. I'm the attorney for the appellant Grandview Point Apartments Limited, or LLC, I'm sorry. As I mentioned, I'm joined by Sean Puddles, Angela Kahns, and Dennis McCloskey of the ownership team. The owners of this property bought a membership interest in the company that owns the property back around the end of the year, December of 2019. There was a dispute with the prior elevator contractor. The owner had to bring in a new contractor in a hurry because the elevators were having issues. And we have since brought in the new elevator contractor. And to my knowledge, and I believe we have verified with the inspector, all of the violations have been corrected in terms of the elevator. There's also one maintenance violation for a leak that happened in the laundry room of 1929 Green Road. And just so the board knows, this is a 3-building. Each building is 6 stories. There's 79 total units. And the new owners have, like I said, taken over the property from the Tim Zaremba family and have worked through the elevator violations and are working on any other violations that may be open and outstanding. So we just want confirmation there'll be no further action on the notice of violation. And we're happy to answer any questions that anyone may have. Thank you, Mr. Dank.
Mr. Chairman, we have Ms. Aston with her hand raised. Ms. Aston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Patricia McGinty, Aston City, Cleveland Law Department. I will be deferring to Mr. Vanover regarding the sub and substance, and I think but as it relates to the maintenance violation, I think there's going to be a re-inspection coming up. But Mr. Chairman, to Ms. Davis, did the board receive the maintenance violation notice in addition to the 3 elevator notices? I did speak with Mr. Monroe about this yesterday. The city was not served with that notice on that property. So I just want to verify it's before this board correctly so that Mr. Monroe can have that heard as well.
The board only received the elevator traction violation notices, nothing about maintenance or any other interior exterior violations, just for the elevators.
So to Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Monroe, do you have a stamp on that, or it was all something electronically? I see you holding it up, John. 827. Can you show me the violation notice where it says what type it is, though? It's not just the elevator one. You know what I mean? Where it says, hold it up close. Okay, and you're telling me, and you're telling the board that one is also the maintenance notice, correct?
Yes, this is violation number V2000-0748. And as you can see, it's stamped received by the BBS and has a case number in the corner.
Okay. And so Mr. Chairman and Mr. Vanover, they also have that. John, if you could at some point email that to me so I could get it to Mr. Vanover, just so that our records are clear. I'm sure in the beautiful technology of COVID pandemic that there's, things fall through. So Mr. Chairman, if he does have evidence that it was, and I'm sure Mr. Matejka will chime in if necessary, but the city, I think we have to concede that violation notice is also before this board on the maintenance issues, because he does have it stamped in a docketed evidence of that being presented and being served back to him. So I will defer to Mr. Vanover regarding all of the rest of it. Thank you.
Okay, where we left this was Mr. Monroe was wanting assurance that there will be no further notices that the maintenance and traction issues are being addressed or have been addressed and will be completed shortly. Mr. Vanover, is it possible that you can answer that?
So, Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I mean, I wasn't prepared to speak on the maintenance notice. But it is my understanding from the elevator inspector that the elevator issues have been resolved and that there's no open violation notices on the elevators. I would ask that you uphold them as properly issued, but finding that they have been complied with. As far as the maintenance issues, I would ask Mr. Monroe again if they are objecting to the maintenance violation notice, or they're just stating that it's complete.
Mr. Chairman, we also have a councilman with his hand raised.
Okay, Councilman Hairston?
Thank you, Mr. Dinkin, to the members of the board. I would concur with Tom Vanover that this matter be upheld as written in any subsequent penalties be issued. I would disagree that the elevator issue is taken care of. In fact, I received several calls from residents as of a couple of weeks ago and really a month ago as well, that the elevators continuously to go down. When you have one elevator, one building had no elevators, I always communicate that with the building and housing department. Our building inspector, Taysir Himdallah, I personally reached out to him through email and phone call. My office keep a log of every time that a resident calls in about the elevator issues. So I don't believe that the elevator issue is correct, and I would ask that this board not release this Olden Properties or this group off the hook for their requirements without for any violations or any subsequent action moving forward. As it relates to the maintenance issue, I believe that this is the only violation notice that has been received as of today, but I have pictures that have been sent to building and housing of the trash that has been overflowing in the parking lot. We have pictures that water is coming from the units, the washing units in the laundry room. We also been notified by residents that mold has built up around the air conditioning units and so many other issues that has been given to building and housing department. I believe our inspector Taysir has been to the property, has talked with Miss Angela, who's the site manager, and I'm under the impression that tickets and other violation notices are to come within the next couple of weeks or a month.
Well, then
Mr. Chairman, we have Carmela with her hand raised.
Yes, Ms. Davis?
I also would need to see a copy of those maintenance violation notices that they said that were received and was dated and stamped by me, because all that I have in our file is for the elevator traction. So I would need a copy of those as well.
Ms. Aston, it seems that we're only talking about the elevators, and the elevators are still going down. May I ask the owners, what is causing the elevators to be, is it just age that shuts them down, or is there some kind of a technical issue? Mr. Monroe.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Dank, and I'll let the actual representative speak to it. Well, the first thing is the notice of violations regarding the elevator was regarding the documentation of the elevators, so that the inspection logs and all that material is on site. What happened was the prior elevator maintenance contract company, when they were let go, took the maintenance records with them. We hired a new company to come in to service the elevators and got the logs and did the yearly testing. And as you heard from Chief Building Official Vanover, those violations in the city's eyes had been corrected. Now, to the councilman's point, yes, there's 2 elevators in each building. They are original to the construction of the buildings, and they're most likely coming to their end of their useful life. And so the property owner is in the process of looking at and replacing them. This is an plus 55 community, so it is important that that's done in a very sequential manner, so that there's not a situation where both elevators are down. And so working on that. As to any other new violations, obviously we'll attend to those as necessary. I think it is a show of the property owners. You have 3 representatives on today, and including the site manager. And so if there's specific issues, Angela can address those. This is the first time I've heard about the mold and the trash, so I'm sure she'll jump on that today. Finally, as to the maintenance violation, all I can tell you is we have a stamped copy from the BBS. I'll forward it to everyone. And all we're looking for on that is additional time. And it seems to me if the violations are corrected, then the building department can say, oh, they're corrected. If they're not, then we'll come back and we'll deal with those particular issues. I don't know if someone's suggesting that I somehow put the stamp on there. But I can tell you that the property owner received the violations and did what they're supposed to do under the codified ordinances is either correct the violations, or if you were seeking additional time, to come to this board, and that's why we're here today. And would note on the maintenance violations, a couple of these issues are regarding concrete on the balcony floor, and those issues will be addressed. They do take some time, and so that's where we're at. I don't know if Sean Puddles or Dennis McCloskey can jump in here and give the board an update as to where the ownership is in terms of issues.
Mr. Chairman, we have Councilman has his hand raised, and Patty Aston had her hand raised for a moment.
Let's hear from Ms. Aston first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Tricia McGinty Aston for the City of Cleveland Law Department. So, Mr. Chairman, based upon Mr. Monroe's statement, and he held up to the, and John, I don't think anyone is claiming you have done anything regarding stamping. But Mr. Monroe did hold up to show a docketed and a stamped maintenance notice. And I will say he's always been straightforward. So this board, first and foremost, has to decide if it is going to hear that notice, or if it is, or what you're going to do regarding that notice. That will be what you would have to do. And I hear Mr. Monroe say they are not objecting to it. They are only seeking time regarding that specific notice that I believe he stated ended in number 748, or whether this board wants to wait and schedule that separately from the elevator issue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, right now we're being asked to make a legal point out of keeping an elevator running, and that really doesn't work too well. We can say you have to have them running. Every time they don't run, they're in violation. And what we've heard from the appellant to date is
respectfully, you've got 3 elevator violation notices that speak for themselves for what the violations list. So you can look at those specific notices. Mr. Vanover can testify as to what those are. Mr. Vanover also testified that the city thought they were already in compliance regarding those 3 elevator notices that are specifically before this board. If there are other issues and notices that are being issued, they will be issued correctly to the property owner and then have the right to appeal as per normal. So that testimony has been provided. Yes, there may be other testimony about other issues, but if you need to go through with Mr. Vanover what the specific violations were that were cited in those 3 elevator notices, and then you still do have to make a decision whether or not you are going to hear that maintenance notice, Mr. Chairman.
I thought it was our understanding that the maintenance notices were part of our hearing. Is that incorrect? Are those maintenance notices in that violation notice?
Well, I will request either Mr. Vanover or Mr. Monroe. Mr. Monroe seems to be the only one currently who has a physical copy in front of him of the maintenance violation notice, Mr. Chairman. According to Mr. Monroe, it is a fourth and separate notice. I believe he said that, John, that went to which one? Was it, did you say 1929, 1929? Or was it a different unit?
1929.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Gallagher has his hand raised as well.
Fine.
The councilman has had his hand raised, so why don't you go to the councilman to respond to what Mr. Monroe has said? And then we can take it from there and we can decide if we want to handle the rest of this, if we're all comfortable with that.
I have a few comments as well.
Okay, let's hear from the Councilman Hairston and then Mr. Van Hoen.
Thank you.
Councilman Hairston.
Thank you, Chairman Dink. Just a response to Mr. Monroe, that the issues regarding the elevators are a matter of life and death in some cases. And we cannot take the issue with the elevators lightly. That these individuals pay their monthly rent, they choose to live at a property, and at the end of the day, the least that you all can do is provide a means for the senior population to get up and down and out of their units safely and securely. So all I'm asking is for the Building and Housing Department and this board to uphold whatever penalties that are attached to these violations, because I simply, at the end of the day, don't trust these owners and don't believe that they will do what it is they say they are going to do, because we continue to have issues at this property, and I'm not convinced one bit that these issues will cease and that these notices will go away. That I'm confident that we will be back at this table again, discussing these matters of elevator violations and other violations that currently exist on this property.
Well, that's the problem. You can't make a law saying you must keep those elevators running. That is the law. And so it becomes the city just has to be vigilant about this, and they can only react to problems. So that what we're hearing from the owner is that they're working on the elevators and they might be at the end of their life. And Mr. Monroe, you're going to say what about assurances to Mr. Hairston and the tenants at this time? I'm sorry, Mr. Vanover wanted to.
So, Mr. Chairman, to respond to several things, the councilman is correct. This is a property that we've received calls on quite frequently. There's a lot of deferred maintenance on this building, and as a senior building, the elevators are, it is a matter of life and death. So he is correct that this is something that needs to be corrected. I'm encouraged that there is a goal of correcting, of replacing the elevators. I think that I would be more encouraged when that's actually a plan that gets submitted to the department. But that being said, unfortunately, in situations like this, we show up, we issue a list of violations, they correct those violations, and then by law, we have to, we close the notice of violation. I can't say on either side what's going to happen next. My hope is that they correct and they replace the elevators so that we don't have to issue more notices. But if there is problems, we will be back. We will cite them again. And the expectation is, they'll of course have their right to appeal, but there's a responsibility on the owner to make these corrections, and our administrative enforcement will escalate from this point to up to and including vacating the building if it becomes dangerous at the under civil order. So just so that we're all aware that these elevators are required for this building. But just to back up, I'll say again, my elevator inspector issued a list of violations. Those violations have been corrected at this snapshot in time. As far as the maintenance notice that has been issued, that that we're talking about, I would ask Mr. Monroe, because I don't have a copy and I was trying to pull it up but couldn't. What is the issue date on that maintenance notice?
This one's dated January 8th, 2020, and the violation notice number is V as in Victor 2000-0748, and the inspector is Madansik.
Mladen.
Yep, Mladen.
So to that point, I would, this is a multi-unit, multi-family residential property. I will say the same thing I always say, that it should have never gotten to the condition that it's in. This is investment property that's been inspected by our rental inspection unit. And to Mr. Monroe's point, it does take some time to get things like concrete repaired and balconies repaired. We are now, it is now September 16th. So we're looking at 8 months that they've had to do it. So that's a lot of time to repair something that should have been repaired already.
Yes.
As such, I do expect that as part of this, that there's other violation notices, and I'll have to do that research. It's it's not typical that of a building this size that there's only this one maintenance notice that we're looking at. That being said, I don't object to hearing this maintenance notice in this hearing, and for them to provide a real timeline to correct the violations. Understanding my position is that it should have already been done because this is a business, and they've had 9 months since the city has told them to 8 or 9 months since the city has told them to correct them. And unfortunately, we're not sitting here talking about the fact that all the elevator notices have been corrected and the maintenance notice has been corrected, because there's been plenty of time to do both.
Okay, and Mr. Vanover, you've already made the statement that you're going to have heightened awareness by the Department of Housing. Mr. Monroe.
Mr. Dank, we also have Mr. Gallagher. He's still waiting.
Hey, Joe, I'm just over to Mr. Vanover. On the issue regarding the elevator, and I know that we're talking about not having the maintenance records and things like that. Have you actually had somebody inspect to the complaints that the people are having to the elevator? I know the other issue needed to be resolved, and it sounds like they've done that. But to the councilman's point, to what he's bringing up and some of the complaints about the elevator and it's not stopping or whatever is going on there, has those issues actually been addressed? Or do we need an inspection on that?
Well, Mr. Chairman, we've done an inspection and found that when we do our follow-up inspection to verify if the notice is still active or not, or if it's been complied with, they'll verify that the elevator is working and that there's no hazards at that time. I'm not, unfortunately, we inspect the elevators, fortunately and unfortunately, but we inspect the elevators to the condition under which they were installed. These are old elevators. So to answer your question, yes, it's been inspected. It's been inspected several times. We do get complaints about this quite often. We schedule an inspection. By the time we get out there, they've corrected it. And then, so there's no cause at that time. That's the nature of our business. And we don't have the authority to require them to replace an elevator that was legally approved and installed. We only have the authority to cite them when it's not functioning.
Now thank you, Mr. Vanover. Now we have new ownership. The elevators are probably going to be stated as working now. And Mr. Vanover said we can hear maintenance issues during this hearing. Our question of Monroe is there anything you want any additional time for, or is your understanding that the maintenance violations have been corrected or will be corrected in the next couple of weeks, and that the elevators do work? Can you make a statement along those lines? Okay.
Yes, and I realize that you all don't have the maintenance violation in front of you, but several of them are, several of the alleged violations are related to a leak in the ceiling of the laundry room. So the first 1, 2, 3, 4 violations relate to that. The leak has been repaired and all of the ceiling tiles in that area have been replaced. The next item were states many exit signs are hanging loose on several floors. I believe that all of those have been corrected. The next item is the ceiling has been missing peeling paint. I believe that has been addressed. This maintenance violation alleges that it says there are some structural cracks in the common stairs. Obviously, that's not just a minor maintenance issue. That is something that has to be, engineered, and the proper correction would be made. And from what I understand, and I would ask that you just hear from the property representative that they're in the process of getting that fixed, and we may need some additional time on that specific item. Then finally, the second last violation here is it says the exterior balconies, loose handrails, missing spindles. I believe that those all have been corrected. It says concrete on balcony floor and ceilings is loose. That is part of the violation that we need additional time to get that done. And then it said several apartments on the 7th floor have windows that are not working. I believe all of those windows have been corrected. And I would just ask that the board hear from either Sean Puddles or Dennis McCloskey to talk about those, what I'll call big ticket items, and where they are in terms of addressing them.
Okay, let's hear from them. Either one.
Mr. Chairman, before they talk, can you just clarify when was that latest citation issued?
To Mr. Maskey, this notice of violation is dated June 8th and had a compliance date of February 7th.
Of 2021 or 2020?
This year, 2020.
So it should have been complied by February 2020?
That's what the violation notice required, and that's why we appealed to the Board of Building Standards to get additional time, because it's difficult to repair concrete balconies in the wintertime. So that's one of the reasons we filed this appeal.
Okay, so just to clarify, it's now September, so that all that concrete work that could have been done, weather has not been addressed yet.
Again, that's why I'd like for you all to hear from the owner yourself, to hear where they're at.
A lot has been going back and forth, and I'm just trying to get a handle on what actually was done, because it gets very confusing without the paperwork in front of you.
We also had a comment from Mr. Vanover that he was going to itemize some more maintenance items that had to be completed.
Mr. Dank, Mr. Councilman Hairston had his hand raised again. I'm not sure if he wanted to make another comment.
I'll hold my comments. They really just spoke to the lack of urgency by the building owners. That January, we're now in September. There was never any intent to complete any of these projects. And as Mr. Gallagher has stated, and as other members of the board, I don't want to mess your name up, Rob. Ms. Skaki has indicated that we've had the owners have had ample enough time to complete this work. Nothing has been done on this property, and it continues to worsen every single day. You know, I'm just not convinced, but I'll stop there.
Okay.
To that, Mr. Dank, just before we hear, I'm not sure, I appreciate the councilman's concern and comments, but I think you heard from the city's chief building official that all of the outstanding violations for the elevators in front of you have been corrected and the violation notice has been closed. So we're here on the maintenance. I again ask that you hear from one of the owner's representatives to give you an update on where that is. And maybe, you know, instead of hearing it from me, hear it from.
Sure. And just to Chairman Dink and to Mr. Monroe, I appreciate that response, and I understand about the elevators. Again, as Mr. Vanover said, you know, they get a report, they get a notice from my office or from a resident, they come out and the elevator is fixed. But this is continuous. I'm past the elevator issue now, and from my understanding that you all are going to present before we get off this call to this board, myself and the Building and Housing Department, of your plan of action to move forward. But as it relates to the maintenance side, which is the discussion at hand at the moment, that there has been ample enough time. I don't believe that this group is going to do what they said they're going to do, and that this board should not allow them any more time to complete this work, that they be cited appropriately, penalized appropriately because of their lack of interest in trying to correct these issues that they've had since January to remediate. In fact, I was just by the property about a month ago, and some of those spindles on the balconies are still broken. Some of the other stuff that you claimed that has been completed is still is still out of place. And I would ask the board and Mr. Vanover, when were these items that Mr. Monroe has said has been completed? Has Building and Housing been back out to re-inspect some of these issues? Have they notified Building and Housing that they corrected some of these issues, and whether they truly exist in the manner in which Mr. Monroe said that they do?
Mr. Monroe, let's hear from the owners quickly and have them tell us what their request is of the board. We've got a whole meeting to conduct, and we've used about half our usual time on dockets. So please have the owners state what they want to do and what the intents are for the property, and we'll move forward.
Sean or Dennis, can you give the board an update on those couple of issues, please?
Hi, this is Sean Puddles. I would actually refer, I mean, Angel knows a lot more than I personally do. Angel, can you maybe just provide a quick update on some of the items that we've been repairing each day? Hello? You guys hear me?
Angela, can you unmute? There you go.
Okay.
Okay.
In reference to the list of violations that I
We're not this isn't working.
We're not hearing you, Angela.
How long have the new owners been in place, Mr. Monroe?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So in respect to the list of violations I received, everything has been corrected but the cement repairs, and we have been in the process of taking bids to get those repaired.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, if I can just add some input. It's my understanding that there is a follow-up inspection planned for Inspector Mladen. Again, we were not aware that this was on the docket. My question to the building owner is, you've got the notice of violation and have repaired some things. Have you done full assessments of the building? I mean, the reality is it's not the responsibility of the building department to come and do the punch list for your maintenance. So it's a little discouraging because I don't think that anybody's really clear other than what we've got on our notice, the extent of the work that needs done here. And again, I'm going to say it again because it's not our job to tell you what's wrong with your building. I would ask from the building owner that you employ a third party contractor or design professional to go through this complex and make your own punch list and put together a plan for the board that says, these are the items that we've identified that need to be addressed and need to be addressed quickly. And this is our schedule for doing so.
Excellent, excellent.
Again, we appreciate it's not the building department's job, but we followed the codified ordinances. The codified ordinance says if you want more time to fix violations, that you go to BBS. And that's why we're here today. So I'm not sure what we can tell you other than we believe most of these violations have been corrected. You can't tell us whether or not they have or haven't. I don't know what to tell you on that. We're just asking for additional time to fix a couple of the issues on the maintenance violations and go forward from there. And I would, again, this is not a property owner that's trying to elude the building department. I think we're doing exactly what we can, which is to participate in the appellate procedure that you have, attempt to correct the violations in a pandemic, by the way. It's not like you can just wave your hand and have everybody come out and fix everything overnight. And if there's all deferred maintenance, I'm not sure why the Zaremba entity wasn't cited over the years, but all I can tell you is this property owner took the property over in late 2019. And you've heard from the CBO that the elevator violations, which were the main gist of this appeal, have been corrected. Thank you.
Mr. Rick, we have, we do have Miss Aston with her hands raised and Mr. Maskey.
Miss Aston first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Patricia McGinty Aston for the City of Cleveland. As Mr. Monroe has stated, they did properly assert their appeal rights. And as he stated, based in the pandemic and things were stayed, this probably would have been heard earlier in the year. If I may suggest, since Mr. Vanover did state that there is a update here, I believe it's going to be Monday, a reinspection according to the inspector. Maybe you want to continue this till the next hearing and the maintenance issues. Thank you.
And you have Mr. Maskey with his hand raised as well.
Yeah. Mr. Maskey.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the appellant, how much time do you actually need to complete all the remaining violations?
We'd asked for 30 days, and I think Assistant Law Director Ashton's suggestion is a good one. Put it on the agenda in a month or so, and we bring it back and get a full report of if it's been complete. If it hasn't.
Well, I wouldn't wait for a month. I mean, if you need 30 days, I would say we'll give you till November 1st to complete the violations. But if there's an inspection on Monday in 2 weeks, which would be halfway through that 30 days, we can have a really good understanding if you're going to meet that or not. And if you're not going to meet the 30 days, then I would just remand this to the building department and let's move on. It doesn't seem, just because we have a pandemic, that we can't get work to be done between February and now September. Just because I appreciate you're following the process of the city and the law, but that doesn't mean you stop work. We have many appellants that come before us that appeal, and when they get before us, they've already completed the work and the case is then dismissed. So there was plenty of time as a building property owner where you are earning income that you should rectify the building and make it habitable for folks that are living there. So I don't mind waiting 2 weeks to hear a report, but I also don't mind giving you to November 1st, and beyond that, if you fail to meet, we remand it to the city and let's move on. You guys have consumed a hell of a lot of time on this meeting, and I haven't gotten a clear answer or any confidence that it's going to be done.
Let's give them until November 1st. A motion is ordered to grant the appellant until November 1st to complete abatement of the violations. Motion so in order.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Maskey.
Second.
Second, Mr. Gallagher. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Maskey,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley, Mr. Dank,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes.
Mr. Bradley was muted. I don't know if he.
Yes.
Yes, here he is. Okay. All right, we'll proceed.
Thank you all.
Next docket, A 2020, 1899 East 84th Street.
Application and fees are in order. Notice of violation is condemnation of the main structure issued January 3rd, 2020. Appeal statement received January 24th, 2020, asking for time. Present for the hearing, Tom Vanover, Patricia Ashton. If the owner is here, please speak up.
Have you heard from the owner?
Yes, they were on. I don't know if we lost them.
Well,
I am here.
Okay, thank you.
Who's he?
My name is Dennis McCluskey.
You're from the last docket. McCloskey, did you say?
Yes, this is for Grandview.
We're looking for East 84th Street. Docket
Understood. Did Grandview just end then? I apologize.
Is Grandview the name of the apartments?
Yes, that's.
I'm referring to 1939 Green Road.
We're done. We gave you 30 days.
Understood. I'm sorry. I was still on the call. Thank you.
Let's proceed with another docket. If you heard from the Alivon Associates, that's who docket 2020 is, right, Ms. Davis? Hello.
Yes.
Okay. Let's hold that docket and proceed to docket A and look for somebody to show up on that. Let's go to docket A 2120 2033 Brainerd Avenue.
Application and fees are in order. Notice of violation is interior exterior maintenance issued January 3rd, 2020. Appeal statement received January 27, 2020, asking for March 15, 2020 to abate the violations. Present for the hearing, Tom Vanover, Patricia Ashton, and I believe this is Charles Watson.
It should be Robert Owens.
That's correct.
Is it Robert Owens?
He's here. Charles Watson is here on behalf of Robert Owens.
Solemnly swear or affirm the comments you're about to make are the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay, and you said you would be finished in March of 2020?
No objections.
Pardon?
The city has no objections to March 15th of 2020.
This is Charles Watson.
Mr. Watson, are you, okay.
I'm sorry.
Don't do that. Mr. Watson, are you stating that you're completed with your abatement of the violations?
No, I'm not. But I received a follow-up inspection last week from the inspector, and he came through and acknowledged that several of the items on the list have been complete. I would like to get an extension to the end of October to complete the remaining.
Mr. Vanover, do you have a comment on that?
No objections.
Okay, a motion is in order. Anything from the board members? Motion is in order to grant the appellant until November 1st, 2020 to complete abatement of the violations. Motion so in order?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Gallagher,
Second.
second. Second by Mr. Bradley. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Maskey,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Dank,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes.
Thank you. Next. Thank you, Mr. Watson. Next, docket A 2220 176 Carson Avenue.
Application and fees are in order. Notice of violation is interior exterior maintenance. Issued January 16, 2020. Appeal statement received January 27, 2020, requesting for 30 days to abate the violations. Present for the hearing, Tom Vanover, Building and Housing, Patricia Ashton Law, IRA Administrators, Inc. I believe this is Katie Free.
Yes, that's correct.
Katie McCray. Solemnly swear or affirm the comments you're about to make are the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Okay. How is it? Did I have the violations been abated?
We have some of the violations abated. I wasn't the property manager when the owner received the violations. It's the same company, but I came and took over February 13th. So the owner decided when he received the violations that they were too extensive to complete while a tenant occupied the property. So he gave the tenant a 30-day notice to vacate, and he was either going to repair or sell. He wasn't sure. The tenant did not vacate after the 30 days. And I think there was some confusion there on her part. It seemed to us that she thought she was being evicted rather than the termination of the month-to-month tenancy. So she began escrowing her rent with the city of Cleveland. And shortly thereafter, obviously there's the moratorium on eviction. So the tenant still occupies the property. I am not sure if she's complying with the rent escrow. We have done some of the work, but not all of it. But we also have the rent escrow case pending. And then obviously we're trying to see if we can get her to vacate.
Mr. Vanover, do you have comments?
I mean, I don't.
Miss Aston with her hand raised.
Oh,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Patricia McGinty, Aston with the City of Cleveland Law Department. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
We went to law school together. Mr. Chairman, to Ms. McCray, did your client actually file an eviction?
So I'm actually not the attorney on this case.
Okay, so you're not the attorney.
I'm working, yeah. So David Streeter is our attorney, and from what I understand, he couldn't file the eviction because we couldn't back in.
They wouldn't let you. Okay.
Right, and so
they were under the original moratorium by Cleveland Housing Court, and they're doing a rent deposit. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Now, I have no idea if she's complying with the rent deposits. Originally, we saw that there were a couple of made, but that's kind of neither here nor there because we didn't want her to stay.
No,
I
right.
think because, yeah.
Has your client separately filed a suit regarding non-eviction, but a contract issue? You know, if they asserted a breach of contract issue under a termination as opposed to an eviction?
I don't think they did that at all.
So, Mr. Chairman, unfortunately, so they asserted something in housing court that was interpreted as an eviction that was under the pandemic moratorium. Then when the city of Cleveland's, the original moratorium on evictions was lifted, there was now just, like within the last 30 days, if not sooner, the CDC reasserting till the end of the year eviction moratorium, if I'm correct on that. I just want to make sure the board understands legally where that eviction process is. So the CDC issued an eviction moratorium till the end of the year.
Right. And now, if I understand the CDC order correctly, we can still file eviction for issues other than non-payment. So in her case, she was served a 30-day notice to terminate tenancy. It was a month-to-month lease and just failed to vacate. So are we able to move forward? And we tried to contact David Streeter, who's representing us on the rent escrow case, to be a part of this today. He wasn't aware that it was happening, and he said if we need him, call him, but just to explain the circumstances in this case. So I think my interpretation is that we can still file the eviction because this is not a non-payment issue or related to COVID-19 at all.
And then you have to determine whether the housing court agrees with you and proceeds.
Yeah,
Right.
so it's going to be, now we've had a hearing scheduled and her attorney asked to continue. He was moving his kid into college. And then we had another hearing, but we only had a previous afternoon notice and we were already scheduled for something else. So we couldn't move forward. We're waiting for the next hearing date on that.
So realistically, if the board grants some time, how much time to complete would you need if you could actually get in there to make the corrections?
Well, the thing is,
the board ultimately wants to know.
The thing is that the owner was trying to determine, these are not really violations. It seems like they could be completed completely and successfully with a tenant in the property. She's lived there for a lot of years, from what I understand, maybe 10 years or so. And so this is something like they really need to move a tenant out and just completely redo this place. Now, the current owner, his idea was that he wasn't sure that he wanted to put the money in the property and he may sell. But he can't obviously do anything until
well, the city's position on sales, and I would defer to Mr. Vanover, but Mr. Vanover always says that a sale is not a plan to abate. But so it comes down to how
we do have some of the violations completed, and I think is Mr. Vanover the inspector?
No, Mr. Vanover is the chief building official.
Okay, so my maintenance manager has been in contact with the city inspector and provided a list of the work that we already completed. I don't know if you guys have that or if it's something I could read to you what they did already, but then there are still items that are not complete. And again, my owner isn't sure that he's been.
Let's get a comment from Mr. Vanover as to where he would like this house to reside from this point. What would you recommend, Mr. Vanover, for action by the board?
Our position is with this the way it always is. There's legal remedy to get inside and make the repairs of an occupied property. I'm concerned. I believe this began with a complaint from the tenant, and although the property owner may want the tenant gone, maybe because they're a bad tenant, sounds like they've paid their rent. Maybe it's because they complained to the city. Maybe because, who knows, because they want to sell and they don't want a tenant in there. I don't know what that is. It's not our position. We are not an eviction agency, and we're not an agency that is, it is not our responsibility to muscle people out of where they're living. So that being said, there is remedy to get it repaired. I am concerned about the owner's, perhaps his desire to sell the property. So it doesn't sound like there's a good hard plan to correct the violations. So we would ask that you deny it and remand it back to us.
Okay, comments from thank you. Comments from board members? We will do that. Motion is in order to deny the request for additional time and to remand the property to the Division of Building Housing for supervision and any required further action. Motion so in order.
So
moved. Mr. Maskey.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gallagher. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Maskey,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Dank,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes.
Thank you all. Next docket, A 2420, 3721 East 142nd Street.
Application and fees are in order. Notice of violation is interior exterior maintenance. Issued January 14, 2020. Appeal statement received January 28, 2020. Requesting for 6 months to abate the violations. Present for the hearing, Tom Vanover, Patricia Ashton. The owner was properly notified and has not responded.
Okay. Miss Ashton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just raised my
Doing the
hand.
usual.
Do my song and dance. Now, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Do you want to swear them in first or have me do my thing first? You usually swear them in.
Solemnly swear your comments you're about to make are the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Preliminarily, Patricia McGinty asking for the City of Cleveland Law Department. Mr. Chairman, to Ms. Davis, was the board's notice of today's WebEx hearing returned to the board's file for any reason?
No.
And Mr. Chairman, to Ms. Davis, was this one of the appellants who, we had some technical difficulties this morning with the link. Was this one of the appellants who had notified you or was trying to get in to the hearing?
No.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, it appear, and I forgot to ask, Carmela, sorry, did you receive any other voicemail calls or emails from them separate from the technical difficulties this morning?
No.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, you do have the authority to proceed. It appears that the proper proper due process notice of today's public hearing via WebEx was provided, and you have the right to proceed regarding this matter. I will also point out, I'll defer to Mr. Vanover, but I will point out that there is also smoke, carbon monoxide, and heating issues cited on this. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we have Mr. Maschke and Mr. Gallagher with their hands raised. I'm not sure if Mr. Maschke's from previous.
Okay.
Sorry, that was previous.
Mr. Dale.
Yeah, Mr. Dale, here's the deal. We already have one on hold. Why don't we put this one on hold, jump to the last case? Why have them sit around and wait while we go through this, and then we'll go back to them too and take care of them.
Excellent. We will put that on hold. Next docket, A 2520, 2702 Saratoga Avenue.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Application and fees are in order. Notice of violation is exterior maintenance issued December 16, 2019. Appeal statement received January 29, 2020. Asking for March 1st, 2020 to abate the violations. Present for the hearing, Tom Vanover, Patricia Ashton, and I believe is this Jamie?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Solemnly swear or affirm the comments you're about to make are the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay. Maybe hear what your plans are for the property.
Sure. So I'm with Old Brooklyn Community Development Corporation. We're the nonprofit that serves the Old Brooklyn neighborhood where 2702 Saratoga resides. We acquired the property in 2018, and we've been working with the city's community development department since that point to receive $40,000 of forgivable money through the Housing Trust Fund program. We were not allowed to start any work until we got the contract. So finally, in July of this year, the mortgage for the Housing Trust Fund was recorded on the deed, and the contract is in the law department getting executed, and our general contractor is working on drawings to get the permits. So we are, after 2 years, finally able to move forward, and we're going to be investing about $80,000 into this home.
Very good. Do you have any timelines visualized at this time?
I know that the permitting process is taking longer with COVID-19, so I'm assuming as soon as we get the permits, we can get started. I don't know, maybe Mr. Vanover could address that a little better than I can.
So, Mr. Chairman, the permitting process is not taking long. It's taking as long as it has any other summer. We've worked through the pandemic. The submission process is a little different, but our permit staff we're still within our 14 to 21 days for zoning review, and then our 30-day period for residential building review. So we should, once we receive the plans, it'll follow that timeline. Mr. Chairman, the appellate is this house occupied?
No.
Okay. So, so it's vacant. So
Yeah,
Is December 1st, 2020 a reasonable date for the submission of plans for permit?
I would say
Seems to be-
so. I would
Okay.
say at least for the submission of plans, because I know that Clifford Allen Bay, our general contractor, is working with his architect Eli Meller right now to get the drawings needed for the permit. So I would think so.
Okay.
So,
any-
Mr. Chairman, wait, to the appellate, I mean, you took possession of the property, and I will state two things. We do have a lot of respect for what the CDCs do in the neighborhoods and the support they provide to the community. I will also state that once CDCs decide that they're going to get into the real estate development business, that they are held to the same standard as any other real estate developer, which means when you buy property to rehab, you should be able to fund it. So knowing that you took possession of the property, my question is, why are the plans and the drawings, why have they not been completed already? Regardless of the funding to build, you knew that this was going to have to happen.
So we actually needed to do some demo work to figure out what it needed to be done to some areas in the second floor and also in the garage, so that we could not complete the demo until the city's mortgage was recorded. So that demo has been done and those are underway. I wish it didn't take 2 years to go through the process with community development, but that's unfortunately what happened.
Well, I mean, I understand that, but it's not the Department of Community Development's problem. I mean, fault. You know, you're a land of Mr. Chairman, to the appellate. They're land developers, just like any other land developer, and where their funding sources come from and where their their bottom line, that's their responsibility. I think that we obviously we are here now. And
Right.
I wouldn't object to more time, but I don't see why this shouldn't be completed by January 1st.
Well, I would love for that to happen. I know there's some supply problems with lumber and drywall right now. So it's just that's our goal, is to get it done as quickly as possible.
Let's just proceed this way and they'll be aware that they're being watched.
Oh yeah, we want to get this done.
A motion is in order to grant the appellant until December 1st, 2020 to present plans and specifications as required and obtain the required building permits. Motion so in order.
Mr. Chairman, I object.
What?
Noted.
Because getting the plan submitted by December 1st
Yeah.
doesn't do anything other than get plans into the Department of Building and Housing. There's an expectation that there's work after that. So it's the submittal of plans doesn't solve anything.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Gallagher has his hand raised. Oh, sorry.
It would seem that the owner would take until he sees what's planned to be done, is why I only gave the planning date, but.
Mr. Dank.
Yeah.
Mr. Dank. Yeah, I think this is a case where we really, because of the timing on this and the way it's taken as long as it has, I think we should just remand it back to the city to take care of, to keep an eye on it.
Mr. Vanover?
Mr. Vanover?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I never object to that. But my point with my initial objection was, if you're going to give a December 1st date for the submission of plans, I would like to see a later date for the completion of the violations.
Oh, your point's well taken, but we wouldn't know what to say unless we knew what the extent of the work was. So
well, then at that point, I would ask that you remand it back to the Department of Building and Housing.
Oh, that was the point of the plans.
Mr. Dank, we have Miss Aston with her hand raised.
Miss Aston.
Yes, very briefly, Mr. Chairman. The violation notice issued is for exterior maintenance. That is only 5 things that shouldn't take 80,000 or months. The fact that somebody is doing extra work outside of the cited violations should be weighed by this board as well.
Okay, we're gonna.
Mr. Dank, at this time, I agree. I would just remand this back and have them work through the building department.
A motion is ordered to deny the request for time and to remand to the Division of Building Housing for Department of Building and Housing for further supervision and required further action. Motion so in order.
So moved.
Oh, second, Mr. Maskey, second by Mr. Gallagher. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Maskey,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Dank,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes.
Okay, have any of our holds shown up?
Can I have a question?
Yes,
What does remanding it back to building actually mean?
it means you're being watched and you better get it
Okay.
done.
Okay, that's fine with us. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, procedurally, it means that the board no longer has jurisdiction. The appeal was denied and the docket is sent back to Building and Housing.
Thank you.
Next docket, A 2620-10108 Flora Avenue, extension of time.
At this time, the appellant reached out to me having some type of medical issue, so we are going to postpone this. And a date is still to be determined when it will be back on the docket.
Okay, then no action will be taken on this docket and it'll be rescheduled. Do we have, I'm didn't make a good note, 1899 East 84th Street, docket A 2020. Can we hear that?
No, we did not.
Okay, so and
going through my emails, this was not one of the appellants that reached out to me.
okay, what does that mean? Does that mean we
need,
you can fill us in on that.
We can go ahead and proceed here, docket A20. The appellant was properly notified and has not responded.
Okay, and what about docket A 2420? We have a hold on that.
We have Ms. Aston with her hands raised.
Yes. Ms. Aston.
If I may make a suggestion, A2020, you did not open and call and swear in. A2420, you did open, call and swear in, and Ms. Davis gave testimony. And you have at least started the hearing process as to hear from Mr. Vanover. So A2420, you started and then stopped, but you have not done that process for A20 yet. So however you want to take those two.
Let me review what you just said. We did swear people in on 2420 or 2020?
2420. So if you want to reopen 2420, you can just hear from Mr. Vanover and then proceed.
So we could hear 2420?
Yes.
Because we have no response. That is correct?
Yes,
Well,
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Solemnly swear the comments you're about to make are the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Mr. Vanover, okay. Can you tell us about that? It's for interior and exterior maintenance.
So this is Mr. Chairman, this is an inspection out of our systematic rental inspection unit. We were called to a complaint. We did the inspection again. This was January. If we could scroll through the pictures, you could see some of the conditions present. This is a rental property. It's an investment property. So we would ask that you. Excuse me? Yes.
I have no pictures for this one, Mr. Vanover.
Okay. All right. So I apologize.
Tom,
I
forward
house in the
the
tree.
photos you have after the hearing.
Yeah, I apologize for that. So, Mr. Chairman, it appears, I mean, this property has several problems. The basement has been excavated. There are several complaints on the property. We have furnace issues. We have, heating, and as Ms. Aston said, there's smoke detector, carbon monoxide detector. issues. So we would ask that you deny them more time and remand it back to us.
Okay. Any comments from board members? Agreed?
Agreed.
Okay. A motion is ordered to find that the violation notice was properly issued and that the request for additional time is denied, noting the appellant's lack of response and the condition of the property per the testimony of the city. Motion so in order.
So move.
Motion,
Second.
Mr. Bradley. Second, Mr. Gallagher. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Maskey,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Dank,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes.
Next item of business, approval of resolutions of the following dockets, A-250,
Mr. Dank,
251, 265,
Mr.
360.
Dank.
Mr. Dank.
Hold up.
Yes.
Yes, you got to take 2020. You haven't done that one yet. We just did 2420. You have to go back up to 2020 and we have to resolve that.
I thought we were just parking that because we got no, okay.
We'll take care of it.
But
Mr. Dank, this is
Okay,
Patty. If I may, if you call it, open it, and then we'll do I'll question.
2020, 1899 East 84th Street.
application and fees are in order. Notice of violation is condemnation of the main structure, issued January 3rd, 2020. Appeal statement received January 24th, 2020, requesting for time to abate the violation. Present for the hearing, Tom Vanover and Patricia Ashton. Appellant was properly notified and has not responded.
Ms. Aston, you have a comment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Preliminarily, Patricia McGinty, Aston City, Cleveland Law Department. Mr. Chairman, to Ms. Davis, was notice of today's public hearing sent back to the board's file for any reason whatsoever?
No.
Mr. Davis, was this one of the appellants that had any of the technical issues this morning?
No.
And have you received any voicemail, phone calls, or emails from this appellant?
No.
And thank you. And do you have a letter of authority, Ms. in my notes to myself, I questioned whether there was a letter of authority because I didn't have any appeal statement attached. So whether this board hears it or not, I just want for the record, the city wants to make sure the board has the proper letter of authority since it is an entity owner. But other than that, Mr. Chairman, the board has the proper due process notice and opportunity to be heard, and you can go ahead and hear this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Solemnly swear the comments you're about to make are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Mr. Vanover?
Yes.
Okay. And Ms. Davis, the comments you made, you would make under oath. All right, proceed, Mr. Vanover.
So, Mr. Chairman, again, this is a part of our vacant property unit. You can see the consent form. So it's not a surprise obviously to the owner that we were there. They filed the appeal. These pictures speak for themselves. I mean, this is the condition of the house. It's condemnable. We have no permits on record.
Wow.
And it's just kind of sitting there rotting.
Okay. And it wants to be, okay, comments from board members, the action take.
Remand.
I agree.
Thank you. A motion is in order to find that the violation notice was properly issued, noting the condition of the property presented on the photographs and the absence of the appellant. The request for additional time is denied. Property is remanded to the Department of Building for supervision and required further action. Motion so in order.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Gallagher, second, Mr. Bradley. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Maskey,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Dank,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes.
Okay, now we'll proceed with the approval of resolutions. That's next. On dockets A 250, 251, 255, 368, 395, 396, 397, and 398, A 398A-19. Any additions or corrections?
No.
Motion for approval as submitted.
So move. Second.
Motion by Mr. Bradley, second by Mr. Maskey. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Maskey,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Dank,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes.
Approval of the minutes of September 2nd, 2020. Any additions or corrections?
No.
Hearing none, the approval, motion for approval as submitted.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Gallagher.
Second.
Second, Mr. Maskey.
Mis-
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Maskey,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Dank,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes.
Any further business
No.
for adjourn? Well, meeting is adjourned. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. We, I think that was a quiz, the whole thing. Everybody's, oh boy. We got to avoid 1 hour dockets, 1 hour items on the